a little closer than I want to be.
John Muir once said, "Everybody needs beauty as well as bread, places to play in and pray in, where nature may heal and give strength to body and soul alike." For me, that healing and strength has in large part been found in Yellowstone National Park. I've spent the last 20 years of my life exploring this park and its majesty. Coincidentally, in the last 20 years, our nation's national parks have seen a large increase in park visitors. In 2021, Yellowstone National Park had almost 2 million more visitors than it had in 2008. The traffic increase has made visiting the park more challenging and less of the healing experience that John Muir spoke about. Fortunately, there are still a few ways left where you can have adventures and healing experiences in Yellowstone Park. But to experience the park like no one else, you have to be willing to do things very few are willing to do. Good morning, everybody. It is that time of year again. It is Spring Bike Week in Yellowstone National Park. This is one of those epic bike rides that you just have to do once in your lifetime. If you're a cyclist, it's totally bucket trip worthy. Every year in March, Yellowstone closes the winter season and begins to plow the roads. Usually between the last week in March and April 15th, they open the road from West Yellowstone to Mammoth Hot Springs. It's about 50 miles of road in total and gives cyclists access to Madison Junction, Gibbon Falls, Norris Geyser Basin, and Mammoth Hot Springs. Out of the 3 weeks of spring biking in Yellowstone, we're lucky if we can find 3 or 4 days of good weather. But this year's weather was beautiful.
I think just about everybody's carrying a pack and some extra water, so we should be good. Well, usually they've got at least a little bit open for us to walk through.
I thought you were going to step over.
I was going to bunny hop it, but I thought that was a little extreme for today.
We arrived at the west gate of Yellowstone at 10 a.m. when temperatures were about 37 degrees, sunny and almost no wind. That ended up being about 10 degrees warmer than the year before. We were hoping to ride to Old Faithful this year, but the park rangers keep that stretch of road closed because the bears start to come out and have been known to chase bikes. One of my favorite parts of this trip is the cycling community.
Have you guys haven't done that ride to Gardner then? Well, one of our friends who's going to do it tomorrow is 70 something.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
I've done it to Norris Geyser. That's as far as I've gone.
Okay, yeah.
No, she rocks it. She's.
That's awesome. That's like, those are life goals right there.
Yep.
Not only do I have a great group of friends who are willing to go along with me on these crazy trips, but the other cyclists out were just as happy as we were to be in the mountains and on their bikes. All in all, it was a great day. We rode in 18 miles to Gibbon Falls, ate a few snacks, and headed back. We saw plenty of buffalo.
Hey, buffalo. Stay there.
And didn't have any big events or misadventures along the way. That wasn't until we got back to the Yellowstone gate and a member of our group had found that her pack had come unzipped and her gloves had fallen out. I rode back about 8 to 10 miles by myself to see if I could find them, but someone must have picked them up. So while the rest of the team rode about 36 to 38 miles, I squeezed in about 55, trying to be a hero and coming up empty-handed. All in all, it was beautiful. You can't have a bad day when you're biking in Yellowstone and there's no cars. It was just really beautiful. There was like no wind. The weather was in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Breeze picked up a little bit in the afternoon. It always does. It always blows around that Madison Junction area, so it was a little harder coming back than going out. Here are my tips and tricks to make a good Yellowstone spring bike ride work. Plan ahead. Watch for a good weather window. Usually spring biking lasts about 2 to 3 weeks in Yellowstone. Most of those days are going to start off below freezing, if they get above freezing at all. So you're looking for 1 or 2 days whenever you can find where you're going to be above freezing and there's little to no wind. And that's a really important thing because when you get out to Madison and you try to come back and you're almost always, the wind is blowing from West Yellowstone towards Madison, you don't want to come back in that wind. If it's anything above 15 miles an hour, it's going to be a long, hard ride. Tip number 2 is be prepared. Get your bike all prepared. Make sure you've got your helmet, layers of clothes. I took a backpack today because I was ready to put layers on and off. I actually had an extra layer in the pack. Then I had layers on me, and then I ended up shedding layers. I didn't actually put anything extra on today. Good foot protection. Regular shoes are probably not going to be enough, especially if you're going anything over 12 miles an hour. That wind will cut through your shoes. So I have a cheap pair of overshoe winter weather kind of things. Love them. Bought them a couple years on Amazon and have gotten all my use out of them. You want to make sure you've got a lunch, food, have enough food. Bring cameras and stop lots for pictures. You do not want to do this ride and come back with nothing to remember it with. I highly recommend taking a GoPro, taking some cameras, taking a phone, and stop often for pictures. Get pictures of your friends, get other people to take pictures of you. Just enjoy the day. This is not one of those bike rides that you have to push through really hard. Bike Week is really a special group of people that get to enjoy that, and make sure that you're one of them. Tip number 3 is know your route. Park at the West Yellowstone Visitor Center. There is a nice spot about quarter mile from the gate. I'll drop a pin on a map and put a link to it in the description below so you can find this yourself and make an adventure like this happen for you. Make sure that you get to enjoy Yellowstone Bike Week. Bear spray. This is one that I haven't been very good about. I did see other people with bear spray today. There was way more snow melting this year than there was last. I would not doubt it if bears are out already. It was obvious to me that this was an earlier spring to Yellowstone than it has been in years past. So a good bear spray, being prepared with all the right stuff would have been really helpful. Have extra bike gear. As soon as we got to the parking lot, we actually had to change tires, change some tubes. Make sure you've got a bike kit, a multi-tool, an extra tube. Make sure that you're just prepared with all the basics. Make sure your bike is ready to go for a trip like this. You need to bring water. There's nothing really open. There were a couple of porta potties open at Gibbon Falls. We didn't try any of the other porta potties at any of the other locations, so I can't speak for any of those. Making sure you've got the right water, food, and gear prepared to make sure that you can do this type of a ride is gonna make your day just way more enjoyable. For those of you that are a little more hardcore, let me just tell you, the common things to do that we have not done yet are to go all the way to Norris Geyser Basin and back, which is about 60 miles, or to go all the way to Mammoth and back to West Yellowstone, which is 100. It would have been epic to do. I am not trained to go much past 2 or 3 hours on a bike. And to do 100 miles, I would have to be ready to go 6 on that road. I would have needed a lot more food, a lot more water. Those of you that want to plan another adventure, if you're willing to go that kind of distance, there are lots of people on a good weather day going those distances, and you won't be alone. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you for now. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed the scenery, if you enjoyed the idea of doing an epic ride like this, hit me up in the comments below. I'll give you whatever kind of advice and coaching that I can. Until next time, Yellowstone Bike Week is typically the last week of March, the first week or 2 of April. Make your plans for next year and get it done. We'll see you guys next time.